So lately I've been getting a lot of comments like this, where some of you tell me that you've been watching me since you were 1 and now you're like 55. And that just makes me feel super old.
Hey there, Sonny! Oh, my back!
But you know what? It's true, and it has been a long time, and the story I'm going to share with you will date me even more.
Back when the dinosaurs ruled the earth!
So I don't know how you remember this, but before there was Facebook, there was MySpace. You know, MySpace with all its customizable pages, personal pages where people would have music and crazy HTML colors and GIFs and things that would make the page load super slow.
But it's me. It's so me.
And then before MySpace, there was Friendster. And before Friendster, there was this thing called Asian Avenue, which always made me think... And along with that, back then there was also this Asian-dominated kind of blog called Zanga, which also makes me think... But basically, back then, I used to blog on Zanga, and I was, pretty hot stuff, if I don't say so myself. You know, I'm talking like 15 to 20 comments on each post and 30 to 40 e-props on each post.
What are e-props?
And so I'd write these short articles in these blogs and I'd use MS Paint to like make the pictures, which actually some of them evolved into some of the YouTube videos that I started making here on this platform early on. But during this time that I was making these Zanga posts, on the side besides school, I would also take on tutoring jobs. And so I'd teach SAT at some of these Korean tutoring academies, and I would also go tutor some of these students one-on-one at their own homes. And you know, come to think of it, a lot of them were Korean. And as a tangent for anybody that's trying to date a Korean, I have the perfect strategy. All you need to do is show their parents that you have a decent GPA, and you can be annyeonghaseyoing the whole way. And so I remember that there was this one particular class that I had where I was teaching, I think it was SAT, but there was a class of about 20 students. And there was this one girl in particular in that class, and she always sat in the same spot, and she was just a little bit awkward. She just dressed a little bit differently, she smelled a little bit differently, and you know, she would always say things just out of time and out of turn. Some of these things just like didn't quite fit, and I could tell that a lot of the other students in the class, the ones that knew her and the ones that were kind of just getting to know her, they saw it too. And so, you know, sometimes she would make a comment and then I'd look around and I know everybody was laughing or kind of snickering under their breath. I don't know if she knew it or not, but she probably did. But she was what most people in school considered like a weird girl. And you know, thinking back now, it wasn't one of my proudest moments. I should have done more to stand up for her and, you know, be her friend, especially since she had so few friends in that class and nobody really talked to her. And I definitely chalk it up to immaturity on my part, even though that's no excuse. But I was present there and just kind of let the other kids do their thing. You know, they would make comments and kind of make fun of her behind her back, and I never really did anything to stop. And so one day there was a particular incident where she had gone up to the board to do a problem in front of the whole class, and on the way up or while she was up there or something like that, she ended up passing gas. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a natural thing, but dude, kids can be brutal. And when I say kids, I was only like 1 or 2 years out of high school by that point, so I fell into that group too. And so the kids were dying. The class was out of control, erupting in laughter, and I was even having trouble holding it back. But that's not even the worst part. After I got home from teaching that class that day, I came up with the bright idea to go and make a Zanga post about that situation. And I don't know if it was like a hunger for attention or trying hard to be funny type of thing, but I had written it in a way that was super demeaning to her. I even included MS Paint pictures of the classroom setup where she had walked, the direction that the gas was emitted, just overall trying way too hard to be funny at somebody else's expense. And you know, at the time, you know, when I was writing it, it was like, fart jokes, give me those e-props. And I didn't even stop once to think about whether or not I was writing should even be written or should it even be published, especially since it was harmful and embarrassing to somebody else. And so it's crazy for me to think about now, but it wasn't even 10 minutes after I made that post public that one of my closest friends, Randy, he sent me a message out of the blue and said, "Hey Frank, I don't think you should have posted that." And you know, he said some of the most poignant things that still stick with me to this day. And a few of the things that he said to me were, one, I was a teacher of that class. A teacher has to be held to a higher standard. I had to hold myself to a higher standard. Two, he asked me, how would you feel? Put yourself in her shoes. How would you feel if somebody talked about you that way? And three, these weren't his exact words, but he basically asked, what type of legacy do we want to leave as a person? And you know, those words just really struck a chord with me. I mean, I'll be honest, when I first got that message, I was actually taken aback. I mean, I was a little offended that all my hard work trying to get those e-props, how dare he come out and point fingers at me, denigrating my work, my masterpiece. But you know, as he talked me through it some more, I started to realize like, hey, you know, you're actually right. This is terrible. And it's not that funny. And one of the things that he helped me think about was, how would I feel and how would I face myself if that poor girl saw that post about her? And so honestly, it was harder than it should have been. And it was so obvious the right choice was right there in front of me. But I took the post down. And to this day, I'm absolutely thankful that I did and that I had somebody in my life like Randy that would have the balls to stand up to me and tell me when something that I was doing was wrong. And that's the first point that I want to make in today's video. It's to surround yourself with people who are not afraid to call you out on your BS. People who are not afraid to tell you the tough words that you need to hear and call you out when you're wrong. And honestly, that's so much easier said than done, because to have that type of relationship with someone where you can trust them enough that they can open up to you and really beat you down when you need to hear it and really give you that pat on the back in your face with their fists, because they understand that beating you down now in this way will actually help you grow more in the future in the way that you need. That type of friendship and that type of relationship is actually very hard to find. And that level of trust has to be built, and humility has to be there on both sides for the person to even come out and tell you the truth that you need to hear, and for you to be able to hear that and accept it and know that they're talking to you for your own good. And so we absolutely need to surround ourselves and be those types of people ourselves that can be able to speak the truth in love to those that we want to see grow and change for the better. And this actually ties in with point number 2 that I want to make. In light of all the crazy recent events over this past week, and I'm specifically talking about the brutal and tragic murder of George Floyd at the hand of a police officer, that racism is just so real and so tragic. And what people fail to realize is that just like people who can speak truth into our lives, by surrounding ourselves with people who have different experiences, different backgrounds, that this is also something that we absolutely need, because it exposes our biases. It shows us our own prejudices and allows us to see a different way of thinking that otherwise we would be stuck in. So I'm not saying that this is going to fix the problem, but for the issue of racism, if people can just realize that we as different people, that we all need each other, that can go such a long way, and that it's really our differences that really brings us together as people and help us to grow into a more mature and greater humanity. And so I don't know if it's because I've been watching so much Avatar: The Last Airbender lately, but this show is just so perfect, and this clip that I'm going to end this video with is just so timely and so perfect for this season that we're all going through.
Why are you telling me these things?
It is important to draw wisdom from many different places. If we take it from only one place, it becomes rigid and stale. Understanding others, the other elements, and the other nations will help you become whole.
All this 4 elements talk is sounding like Avatar stuff.
It is the combination of the 4 elements in one person that makes the Avatar so powerful. But it can make you more powerful too.